What was the breaking point when you decided
Mm.
to go internal and to change? As you say, you kind of rebuilt yourself to become the fortified person who could show up differently in co-parenting with a high conflict ex. Becoming impervious when you realized not only the only thing I can change is myself, but now I've got to change myself.
I would say it was death by a thousand cuts. I had just a bunch of things that I was just doing wrong. And there was just this moment in time where I don't remember what it was about, but I had told my kids, like, if you want this to happen, you have to tell him. I can't. Like,
Mm.
kind of like this, toughen up, you guys, at 11 and 9, and get it together and go. If you're not happy, go tell him. And my son, straight as the day was long, looked at me and he goes, "Why? You don't." And Walker, my oldest, love him. He's 21 now. I got divorced when my kids were 1 and 3. He'd been with me. He's my ride or die. If I killed somebody, he'd help me bury the body. Like, he was my truth telling, call your shit out mom. And he was like, "You want us to be tough?" He's like, "Why don't you get tough?" Okay, I hear what you're saying. And then it just had me really go through reflection of, like, I am expecting 11 and 9-year-old to do more than I've ever done and shown them in the past, 10 years of this whole process. Like, what am I doing? And I had to really assess. And so then I started looking at, okay, I was drinking too much when I didn't have them. That wasn't helping me process anything. Wasn't taking care of my body at all. I was sitting around eating shit that I shouldn't have ate. Like, the circle of people I was around, I was like the one doing the best and I was not doing well. So it was like when he made that comment to me, I just realized, man, everything in my life is toxic. It's bad, it's wrong, it's not appropriate. I'm not leading by example. I'm not being a good role model. I was in this victim mindset. I was in this feel sorry for me. I'm in high conflict. My ex-husband hates me. I have this horrible visitation schedule. I'm not getting child support. Like, it was just everything I talked about was negative. And it was just that moment when he said that, I'm like, "Holy cow, I have to change." Like, and it slowly just it got me a fire under my ass that I knew what I was doing was not helping anybody, and then it was not helping my kids because they were watching. They were sponges. They were seeing how I wasn't handling things, and so I had to change, and, like, I changed everything. There wasn't anything I kept.
And
It
from
it
the mouths of babes,
Yeah,
right? Because people always say children are so resilient. They give you this
yeah,
advice. You're getting a
yeah.
divorce, you're doing it for all the right reasons. Children are resilient. That doesn't help you.
Mm-mm.
It's different if you say children are smart. They are
Children are
so
watching you.
smart. They're watching, they are processing, they distill what's really going on quicker than you do.
Absolutely.
Um, and talk about your mirrors, right? They are
Yeah.
our teachers and our mirrors, and God I mean, it's like that quote, that we sometimes choose the wrong partner, but we always get the right kids. What does it take to find actual peace in the ongoing process of co parenting with a narcissist? Samantha Boss knows all about it because, yes, her ex husband was diagnosed as such. Samantha is a woman who spent 4 years, over $100,000, and 300 court entries on her divorce when her children, then 1 and 3 years old, now 21 and 19, were very, very small. On today's podcast, we are talking about what people get wrong or leave out most often in their decision making, what people get wrong when it comes to logistics, what people get wrong or leave out most often when it comes to communication, what people get most wrong when they are preparing for divorce in custody court. As a conflict divorce coach and former divorce mediator, she is highly, highly specialized in parenting plans. She is an evangelist for practical approaches to this journey of high conflict divorce. And whether you're dealing with someone who is a diagnosed narcissist or just generally an awful person, rest assured it's not going to be wine and roses. This will get worse before it gets better. And the more you know, the easier it's going to be.
Really. I mean, he called me out and it just transitioned everything in my life at that point. I changed. I dropped the people I was around. We started going to church. I stopped drinking. I started doing fitness. I started doing personal development. I got a better therapist because it's like, okay, 11-year-old called me out and I've been paying a therapist a shit ton of money and she has never called me out like
I've
that.
done it.
She keeps asking me, "You're doing good." Like, no, I wasn't. And here my 11-year-old was like, "Get your shit together." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And that moment on, we all had a shift. We're not gonna let him control our house. We're not gonna play victim anymore. And it
So
changed from there.
you so for context, you spent 4 years, $100,000 in your divorce case. Your kids were
Mhm.
1 and 3,
Yes.
and I think I read somewhere 300 court entries during those 4 years. I don't even know how you get up to 300 court entries, but I'm sure you were not the
You divorce a narcissist, that's
instigator.
what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone asked me how I got this schedule. They were like, "Wait, wait, wait." One of my friends was like, "Wait, wait, let me get this straight. So your house always smells like scented candles. There are no crumbs on your counter. You get to now make out with everyone in Manhattan,
Absolutely.
and he's legally required to take your children away every other weekend." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "How do I get that deal?" And I was like, "First, you marry someone who's allergic to accountability,
That's a good way to put it.
and you have a breaking point. Then you run. Then you get some shimmer makeup,
Yes, uh-huh,
just a little bit of
and
shimmer,
you have a good time.
and you have a good time." But, your kids were 1 and 3, now I think 21 and 19.
Yes, ma'am.
You are a high conflict divorce coach and former divorce mediator, but also highly specialized in customizing parenting plans.
Yes.
You are an evangelist for the practical approach
Mhm.
to this journey of high conflict divorce. So I think the biggest mistake I made in prepping for my divorce was assuming that we all want peace.
Yeah,
Because I don't think everybody wants peace, because I don't think everyone understands what it even is.
right.
And the quality of your divorce journey and your co-parenting experience is driven by the less peaceful parent.
Mhm.
That's something I didn't understand.
I
But
agree.
if you come from an environment where the majority of people you know are not divorced, for example,
Me too.
even well-meaning people don't understand that a high conflict co-parenting journey doesn't end. And
Mm-mm.
being told that you need to get over it certainly doesn't help when it's
Right.
ongoing.
Yeah.
But that people can really, really become dedicated to unleashing hell on your life, right? So, in that context, I want to talk about the rules of engagement when we are divorcing someone who is or is likely to become high conflict. What do people get most wrong or leave out most often when it comes to decision making in the parental?
Ooh, great. Starting off with a hard one. Where the world is now, everybody thinks everybody gets equal, right? So we're in this 50-50 joint decision making world, which I'm not 100% behind, especially with the type of clients that I have. And when a lot of Larry's, I call them, the shitty lawyer that everybody gets that doesn't really help you, just wants your money. When they give you a parenting plan that says joint and joint decision making, you think, okay, well, I have a say. He or she cannot make a decision without me. That's exactly right. He or she, and you included, cannot make any decisions really. You just both hired these high price attorneys to fight out this whole battle. And then they just really stuck you with a sticker that said, and they'll work together. And it's not going to happen. And so where people go wrong is they just get the words joint and that's it. And it says, both parties agree to joint decision making around all major decisions, but there's no clarity on what is a major decision. So now I think going and taking my child for the first haircut is just, well, it's needed. The bangs are too long. The curls are there. So I'll go take. Is that a major decision? I don't know. When I want to put my kid into school and they say, hey, they're kind of struggling. I think they might need an IEP. Is that a major decision? When I go to the doctor and my kid needs a new shot that comes out and I say, yeah, go ahead and do that. Is that a so there's no clarity on what is a major decision versus, you know what? My kid feels like he has the sniffles and a little bit of a fever, low grade. I'm going to keep him home from school. Is that a major decision? Do I have permission to make that unilateral decision? Or do I have to call my ex about this haircut, about this vaccination, about the IEP sign up, or about, keeping him at home? There's no clarity. So when there's no clarity on what a major decision is, what is your option? Well, your option is to go rogue and maybe make a wrong decision and you're like, get in trouble. It's to call your high priced attorney again to ask for clarification. Or it's to work with your ex who, wants to light you on fire on a normal basis. They're
Yeah.
never going to agree with you. And so
And
you're
if they
stuck
could work
with
with you, you'd still be married, by the way.
exactly. We would have been to some therapy and we would have kumbaya this shit. So it's this practical look at, yeah, it's great that I have this wording until I go try to use this wording. And then when my ex goes and makes a decision, I'm like, whoa, it says right here we have to make a joint decision on and your ex is like, but that's not a major decision. That was just like a haircut. And you're like, I mean, I've seen moms lose their mind that first haircuts they were not at or they didn't have a call on. And I get it. The emotion, I get it. I get it. But to that other person, that wasn't a major decision, right? Because there's no definition. So I think in the long-winded answer to your question, it's making my parenting plan that I produce for people will have what are the major educational decisions? What are the major extracurricular? What are the major medical? And what are the major religious decisions? We go through those. And by all means, if there's one that you don't want to put in there, you can take it off. But at least I know what do I have to check in on and what do I not? Because if it's not listed, I'm not asking because we had a chance to list it.
Well,
and we
yeah,
didn't.
truly, having been through this now for 5 years, you've been through it through the entire
Entirety.
process of getting your children to adulthood. There's probably 30 things I can think of off the top of my head that should have been outlined as major versus minor and that were not, and you've probably got 75,
Mhm.
right? And
Yep.
people don't have that list.
Right.
Next question, what do people get wrong most or leave out the most often when it comes to logistics? Because people think major decisions is what the negotiation is in divorce and in co-parenting.
Mm-mm.
But the day-to-day becomes a big hassle.
There's so many things around transportation being one, on actually physically who will be the one that picks up and who will be the one that drops off. It's one of the things that's easily forgotten. School lunches and who's paying for lunch. Everybody thinks that child support covers everything, and I could die on that hill all day long of it that it doesn't. But there's so many small little details of day-to-day life, and I think again going back to having an attorney that possibly doesn't have children, hasn't raised children all the way through to 18, who's helping you create something that they know nothing really about the day to day of how does a child get raised. And there's so many things that pop up. Vacations. Am I allowed to take that whole first day? Is that considered the vacation, or is it the second day that I leave for vacation? And there's so many things that are assumed, I guess, in a very vague parenting plan that get misinterpreted by two different parties. My view is this and their view is this. And so while I think, well, this is better for kids, like you should do this and I shouldn't, or we should come to an agreement. You're expecting that other person to be in the same time frame, in the same mindset, in the same headspace that you are, and be putting child first. And when again they want to light you on fire every day, they're not going to be. They're just going to wait to see what you say and go opposite, even though they might want to be where you're at, but they're not. So when it comes to logistics, it's the smallest details become some of the biggest fights. I've seen people fight over winter coats. I've seen people fight over who buys the book bag. I've seen people fight over who registers a kid for school. And as somebody that has multiple children, go ahead. Or spend 45 minutes filling out all those stupid questions. Like, go ahead, just put my name and email on it and I am good. But they fight over who can take the child to the doctor, who
Right.
who who gets to be there. I have a couple right now fighting over who gets to have all of the papers that come home from second grade.
Does
Take them.
anybody want the papers that come home from 2nd grade?
Well, I got this dad that, like hell and high water, he expects mom to make a copy of all the papers that come home, even the scribbles, so that he can have the original and she can keep the copy. I
The
mean, this is
pettiness
where
is unmatched. I mean, that's pretty high level petty.
yes, but that's where we're at. I mean, again, social media hasn't helped. We're now seeing what everybody's fighting over because everybody's talking about it on social media.
Right.
But really, I mean, these parenting plans, they're so critical. And I have the argument a lot where people say, well, the parenting plan, they won't follow it. They won't follow it. Yeah, but you will.
But
And
you
that's your
will.
peace of mind. You will, and your time is protected. You know what you're doing. And that's all I can control is me. So it protects me.
Uh, One thing that popped into my mind recently was, how can I get people who are come to me for advice to understand the importance of the parenting plan? And I thought, it's the prenup. Think of it this way, get a prenup, hope you'll never use it, but if you did have to use it, assume you would hate each other. That is how a co-parenting plan should be written.
100%.
Write the co-parenting plan as if it is a pre which you hope you never have to use, but if you have to use, you could live with it, right?
Well,
Because
100%.
there are different aspects of the co-parenting experience that can be weaponized when someone wants your attention, when someone wants to damage your energy, when someone is just jealous that you're at peace,
Yes.
right? Or jealous that you've left or can't
Or
handle
you've
from
moved
an ego
on, or you got a better
perspective,
job, or you lost 20 pounds.
or
Anything
that
can
the
throw them off.
kids don't like them or I mean,
Yeah,
whatever it is, right?
yeah.
There's so many aspects that can be weaponized, but one of the things that can be weaponized is forced interaction.
Mm,
And so one thing that is default decisions, meaning there's a clock. If we can't determine
yes.
together the dates for Thanksgiving by November 1st, the default in odd years is this and even years is that.
Well, that should be an
So there
earlier.
comes to be a moment where you
Yeah.
can say, I'm ending all communication now.
That it should be that
Peace be
way
with you.
anyway. So, like, when you're asking what do Larrys forget? Larrys think that everybody's gonna, and this is a common phrase that attorneys will say. They'll say, "Hey, don't worry. When the ink dries, this will get easier." Yeah, for some people it may. And for the rest of us, it's a living hell every season, right? So holiday schedules, everything should be start time, end time. I look at it this way. When your child is born into this earth and you get a divorce, I don't care what age, one for my daughter. Every moment that I got divorced after I separated is accounted for in that parenting plan. Every moment, every waking day, every waking hour, every waking holiday, every minute it says When she's 5 on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock, I could look at that parenting plan and go, I know where she should be when she's 5 and it's 7 o'clock on a Thursday. I know. I know what Christmas in 2032, who she's opening presents with. It says it. It's that much detail. Because to your point, if him and I or him and her or him and him, whatever, are getting along, then we'll just be like, hey, you want to come over for Christmas? Sure, no problem. We that thing is up on a shelf collecting fucking dust. But if by chance we aren't, then I say, hey, I know you're trying to get on with me, whatever. Like, I hear you. You're offering something different, but it's not working for me. So let's just stick to what we agreed to. Let's just go back to the original because this is killing my vibe. I'm not saying all that. I'm just saying, hey, I heard you. It doesn't work for me. Let's stick to the plan. Again, every minute should be accounted for, and so many Larrys leave it open for discussion so that you two will battle, and then you two got to call your attorney over the holidays, which is extra money and time, and you're extra stressed out, and then it just escalates into this big, huge thing, and then you look back on it as soon as Christmas is over, and you're like, I just wasted a lot of money.
A
that was
lot
just
of money, and
that
by
was
the
just
way, tickets could have been booked a month before at a different price, and it just makes you crazy.
all to my
Whether
kids
you
after
have
I
the money or
die.
not, by the way, and
Yeah.
if you don't have the money, you're totally screwed. But if you do have the money, it's the principle of the matter. Why is it being wasted,
Right, and then
right?
again, I think that's just ill advisement. I think too many people and I'm seeing it change, and I'm glad it's changing, but I see too many people spend so much time and energy on, "How do I tell my ex or my husband or wife that I want a divorce?" Oh, they spend weeks, months building up the courage, the mindset, "Okay, I'm gonna tell him on a Tuesday. No, I'll probably tell him on a Friday. Oh, I'll tell him when the kids are home. No, I'll tell him when my kids are at my mom." They spend so much energy on that conversation, I did, and then they never think, what's day 2 look like after I make that announcement? Do I have my lawyer already? Do I have my therapist? Do I have my divorce coach? Do I have, a lineup of where I'm gonna go if shit hits the fan? Do I have backup money? Do I know our assets and debts? Do I know what I'm doing with the kids? They think so much about that and they don't plan. You spend so much time planning a wedding. Please spend a quarter of that time planning your divorce. Just a quarter of it, and I'd be happy. But so many people are like, "Hey, I told my ex-husband I want a divorce yesterday, and he already has an attorney and took the kids like yesterday. Did you do anything?" No, I didn't. I didn't call anybody ahead of time. I'm like, "Oh, sister."
I called my best friend
Yeah,
and I
and they
told
gave me validation, but they're not helping you. Like, you have to get the plan going because we're just not in a world where you can just, "You know what? Let's sit down at the table. Let's have a talk, and let's plan this down."
So the third one I think is, what do people get wrong most often or leave out most often when it comes to rules of communication? Because communication can be weaponized. People
Absolutely.
can berate you, keep repeating the same question 25 times. And are you a bad parent if you say I'm blocking you because I
Right.
have the kids for the next 48 hours? You can call my doorman, you can email me, but I'm blocking you on my phone. Is that combative? People weaponize their ability to just communicate with you. Right? And they also fail to communicate in a timely manner, and that is abusive,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. So when it comes to our communication, again, I deal with exclusively high conflict people, but I think anybody listening here that's like, "Hey, I get along with my ex and it's pretty good." Okay, prepare for the storm because it's going to come at some point when somebody remarries or attaches themselves to a third party. But when it comes to communication, we like to really put in there when I have the children, I'm not required to check. Unless you call me because it's a health issue of yours, like you're dying, or you've been lit on fire, or there's a transportation issue that's emergent, but I have the children. So, I mean, think about that. When you have the kids, your parenting plan should be written to protect your peace and your time with the children to where you are not required to be inside of OFW or some parenting app and responding back to a person that doesn't have children who has all kinds of free time to harass and interrupt your time. But that when you don't put a detail like that, then I have my children and then I hear ding, ding, and I'm like, stop playing with my kids to go check a message. No, I'm not doing that, right? So the parenting plan has to protect your time with the kids, but also protect the time when you don't, that you can get information if you need to, but put a 48-hour rule on it. If it's not emergent, and again, the only two things that are emergent, you guys, are health and transportation. That's it. Everything else is piss poor planning on your part, and you're not being organized and you're not thinking ahead. When you're divorced, you are always a month ahead. You should have January already laid out, seeing where there's going to be conflict, seeing if there's a holiday, seeing there's an off school day, seeing if there's appointments, seeing if there's extracurricular. It's already planned out. And if you're not, you're the secondary parent and you're
Behind
not the
the ball.
primary, you're behind. But you should already be ahead to where right now I could send a message that says, "Hey, it looks like at the beginning of January we have this conflict that's not included in our parenting plan for whatever reason, and I want to get ahead of it." He can answer in the next 20 some days versus when you all wait till the last minute, it's really high conflict. You're trying to interrupt their time. You're trying to get at them. You're trying to pick a fight, get attention, whatever it is. You got to be a month out. And if you're not a month out, you're wrong. So in the parenting plan, we talk about a 48-hour rule. We talk about when you have the children, the only reason you're allowed to respond back is if it's an emergent reason, which is listed. Because again, we can't leave something vague like an emergency because not being able to find the cleats might be an emergency to the other party. That's not an emergency. You can solve that problem on your own. Okay, tough guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not, but we get trained that that is an emergency. How dare you not tell me where the cleats are? This is I can't find the cleats and he can't go
Yeah,
to
we're
practice.
too responsive because we're
Yes.
still trying to be kind.
We want to be
We're
the good
still trying to
co-parent.
make them feel okay
Right.
about being left.
Not our job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not our job.
And it
You
really
know?
never ends.
No, but you gotta be okay with that. You gotta be okay with, and this is like training a puppy. Nobody wants to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and let the puppy out, but that puppy's gonna whine or piss in their cage if we don't, right? And so we have to train the puppy. Like, you're not peeing in that cage because I'm not washing it. I'm getting up and I'm going outside. I have to do the hard stuff for 6 weeks? And then the puppy's trained for life. I do the hard work for 6 weeks. There's nothing different about co-parenting with a high conflict person from the scratch. As soon as you begin, it's a hard training period. No matter how many messages they send you to get to you, you follow your parenting plan, you follow the boundaries that you want to have, and let them explode, let them act like a tantrum child, and that you took their favorite toy away. Train them that your peace is protected.
Yeah.
Train them.
What do you think people get most wrong in terms of preparing for court?
They want validation instead of future thinking answers. People, when they go to court, want to hang the other one out to dry for they're the reason they're there. They're the one that cheated. They're the one that did communicate. They're the one that caused the problem. And they go into it wanting that point the finger instead of everything in court should be about your future. Nobody cares why you got divorced. That's not why you're there. You're going to get the divorce granted. You're in court to plan your future and show that you're the better fit parent. And when they go into court ill prepared, it's very easy for the opposing counsel to get you on your heels to where you start bashing on that parent and start talking about the past and then you've lost focus of your children because that's why you should be talking is only about your children. Now you can use past experiences that you've endured with that ex to use as motivation as to why you are the better parent, but it's got to stay quick and simple and move on. But you get up on that stand and people start talking about, I was abused and then this happened and this happened. It's like, we're not there for you. That's a civil suit you can go sue and try to get. You're there to talk about how you are as a parent versus the other one. So I think they go in sometimes with just ill advisement from their Larrys that, you got to be coached on how to perform in court. This is a performance of your life. This is how to talk about how you're well equipped, you're well rounded. I'm all for getting emotional on the stand when you are talking about your children, but you got to wrap it up and get back to business and talk about how you're the organized one, you're the planner, you're the one that's going to keep a good relationship going, you're the one that's going to advocate, you're the one that's going to include. You got to set that tone, especially if your ex is going to be coming for you saying you're crazy or, you're this or that. Like you got to counter going into court what they're going to accuse you of and show on the stand physically that you're not that person. And so,
In documentation, if you can, right? There's this
yeah,
big
for your
conversation now
evidence.
about how to document. And
Data,
what do you document?
data, data. And I think this is where people get on the stand. They say, oh, this parent's always late. Okay, that's great, Sam, but can you show me data to prove that? Like, if I can show a judge, and this is another thing that people just don't get, but lawyers do, and I don't know why they don't share this with their clients, is when I testify and our case happens, December 3rd, I might not hear the judgment on my case till February, right? There's 30 days, 60 days sometimes in some states and counties. So when my judge hears my case on December 3rd, he hears my passion, right? He hears what I said. He's always late, he hears that.
Mm.
But when he goes 30 days from now to look at my case file and I produced no data, I showed no actual evidence. I was on the stand, I talked really well, but I didn't give him any physical thing to reference back as he's going through my case 60 to 30 days later. I'm fucked. I have to show data for him to go, oh yeah, that's that girl that said she was late, but look at the spreadsheet she gave to show how many times he has been late.
That's part of the question. Do they look at the evidence?
Well,
Because for those of us who got divorced, had a co-parenting plan, and then found out
mhm.
after the fact that we're dealing with someone high conflict, if you're in that situation and you've got all the evidence and you can say, of the last 36 months, child support has been late 67% of the time. Here's the documentation. And also, every single time I get cursed at, this is high conflict. And also, for drop offs, this is how many times. And here's the text message chain where I'm saying, where are you? I'm going to be late for this thing. Where are the kids? Getting all the documentation is one thing, but what if the goal is to not go back to family court?
Right. Well, I would love for your audience to hear this. And it's a matter of understanding that family court is not criminal court. If I walked into criminal court and had all that evidence, whew, guilty. 'Cause I produced evidence in criminal court where I could show evidence is this, evidence is this. Family court, we have feelings involved, and you brought all that evidence, and then my ex is gonna get on the stand and say, "Oh, I've been cut from 3 jobs. I had to go move in with my mom, so now I'm 45 minutes late. I can't afford the child support because I don't even have a job. I have to drive further now, so that's why." And then these judges go, "All right, I see that she has good evidence on you, but you say that you're willing to try harder this time." And it's this 3 strikes, 4 strikes, sometimes 7 strikes by a judge because it's all off their bias of how, well, maybe they had a buddy that lost his job and they feel bad for him. They worked at that same place that they it's not criminal court. There's not statutes going, you have fingerprints, plus you're on camera, plus there's an eyewitness. You are guilty. It's not that. It's the I hear what she's saying. She did collect a lot of evidence, but maybe he's gonna be able to explain the evidence. What?
Well, that's also what Dr. Christine Cocchiola and her partner wrote about in Framed, where there's a bias in the courts that women are not aware of,
Yes.
where people want to give
Benefit of the doubt to the
equitable
dad.
parenting time to fathers. And it doesn't come from a bad place. It comes from a place of understanding there were women
Right.
who abused the system, and there were
Absolutely.
men who lost their families, and there were horrible situations of deep, deep separation between children and fathers that didn't have to happen because maybe they broke up.
But I think it's
But
one of the things we changed dramatically for a small percentage of what was happening.
yes. Yeah, we way overcorrected or they way
Mhm.
overcorrected, and
Right.
now every woman I know who would burn herself alive to keep her children happy
Yes.
is terrified to go to
Mhm.
family court, and it's
Right.
gotta change. It's
Right.
terrifying. But on the other end of it, I just think, "Okay, what do I advise friends who are in the process of negotiating a co-parenting agreement?" And I think men and women, as specific as you can possibly humanly think about being, you should be,
Yeah.
right? Which is
It should
why
have
I love the work you do.
it should have longevity and it should have detail. So my kids should be able to age with the parenting plan and every major occurrence. And this is why I think coming to someone like me specifically, being an expert, I've raised kids through everything in their life already once. I'm on my second set, so I'm doing it again in real time as we go. But it's this I don't know that I'm going to take advice from somebody that's never raised children or hasn't raised them all the way through and hit all the obstacles. How do you know? I'm not going to go like I only go to female gynecologists for this reason. I'm not going
Right.
to go to a male who's like this won't hurt a bit. Well, fuck you. How do you know? Like, I'm not going to believe you. You don't know this, right? So, like, I want to surround myself when I'm going through a divorce of people that do this. And I'll touch on this real quick just so people hear this because I don't want anybody to miss anything. Even the financial part, your attorney is not financially certified. Very, very few attorneys are financially certified along with family law certification. So when you pick an attorney and they say, "Oh, I can handle your retirements. Oh, I can handle splitting your debts and assets and your millions of dollars." Oh, can you? Like, what's your background? Do you have a financial certificate? No, I've done them a lot. And that's not good enough for me. I'm hiring a CDFA to make sure they know apples and oranges are getting talked about separately, that pensions and Ross are not the same, that equity in a home, and they know that. So I'm hiring the professional to talk about my money. So again, it's make sure you're getting advice from somebody that actually has been in the trenches that is specialized in that field. Family law attorneys try to cover it all, and I give them credit. I mean, they're trying to get it the biggest bang for their buck. I give them that. It's a great business. $16 billion industry every year and it's growing dramatically. So I mean to me, just make sure you're getting advice from people that have lived it, breathed it and do it every day. Not like, "Oh, I've done a few of those." Like if you're a military divorce and your attorney's like, "Yeah, I did one a couple years ago." Okay, you're not my attorney. I need somebody that's been in the military, not maybe been in, but has done a lot of military cases. So you've seen all the different things that can happen with a military divorce because those are messy. So I think it's just a matter of it's not old school. We're not in 1984 where you just get your family law attorney and that's all you need. You need a team of Avengers now
Yeah.
to get
You really
divorced
do.
successfully. Successfully. And maybe that's wrong of us, but I really feel like I much rather learn from somebody that failed. And I think that's why people attract to me. I'm not on social media being like, here's what I did to win. Here's what I did to do it correct. I failed way more than I won during my divorce. Way more. But I learned from it that I was part of the problem, that my attorney selection was part of the problem, that I didn't have Avengers was part of the problem. I didn't have the right money supply was part of there were so many things that were the problem. And I'm transparent about that. I've been in
Hmm.
those trenches. I've thought bad things about myself. I have performed poorly as a parent. And you surround yourself with people that are willing to be like, let me learn from that and let me teach you better so you can take the shorter route and the less expensive route. And I think that's why my parenting plan is so great. My parenting plan that I got all those years ago was 4 pages long. And when I got it, I was so fucking excited because I'd been in court for 8 days. and it was so expensive. I'm like, finally, it's over. I have this amazing parenting plan. 6
Crazy.
months later, I went to use it and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I must be missing a couple pages. And then I saw one of four and I'm like, oh my gosh, I spent all that money and got a shit plan. And now what do I have to do? Oh, I have to go back to get more things added. And that's where all the entries come from because I thought it was great, but I thought something was great I didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about it. So I thought the first jab was good. It was not.
Yeah.
It was not.
And I consulted one friend who shared with me her parenting plan, and I did incorporate a lot of it into the draft that my attorney sent, but like I said, hindsight is
You don't know what you don't know. You
right?
don't know until you've done it. So why not learn from somebody that's already done it, failed at it, and made it better?
And you do say that you selected the wrong attorney,
Mhm.
but I think the other thing you get really personal about is powerful, where you say that you were part of the problem.
I was. I was a
And I would like you to explain it because at the end of the day, I think even women who leave marriages unphysically scathed and they think somewhat unmentally scathed and they do it at the right time when the kids are small and they're not worried about the money and they think I'm winning at divorce, right? Everything's
yeah,
fine. Everything's going to be as good as it could be. We all still end up being part of the problem.
we
And I
do.
love your explanation. So please
Yeah. So I think it's a matter of like it all came during self-reflection, right? I looked back on my journey and thought he was only the problem for so long. I mean, I was walking around being like, oh, he, all the whole time. And what I didn't realize is I was hyper fixated on all the wrong, and which made me high conflict because I'm pointing out this and I'm asking this and I'm requesting this. Like, can't we hit the same bedtime? Can't we do that? I was making everything like, let's be the same. My expectations I was forcing on his house. And I was part of the problem by expecting somebody who did not like me, did not respect me, and did not want to co parent with me to have the same expectations of me. And so, therefore, I'm high conflict when I'm requesting and asking and demanding or sending a message or explaining myself is also high conflict because all I'm doing is playing the game back and forth. He'd
ding
accuse me
ding
of
ding. Can I
something.
ring a bell? Yeah.
Yes, and I'm over
Explaining
here like,
ourselves.
"You don't understand. Here's why I did that. Da 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 da." And all I am is now we're going back and forth, and I'm high conflict by doing that because I should have known his personality is let's poke the bear and watch her explode, and then I get to call her crazy, and I have evidence to show she is because look at the message she just sent me back, right? Explaining yourself and justifying and all these things that I thought I was supposed to be doing, but no, I was just stirring the pot of high conflict. And I think the other part of that is really just coming to terms with where are you emotionally regulated when you're high conflict? You're all over the place. You're not emotionally regulated. And so you're tense, you're anxious, you're upset, you're yelling, you're screaming. I'd be like, "Go, just go play you guys. Like I have to go do this. Like you don't understand."
I
And
know that
so
tone. I
I'm
know that tone.
screaming at my kids, he's not even in my house. It's just a message I'm responding to. But I'm screaming from somebody that's just met I'm that put off by a
"Just go
message.
play. Why can't you just take a shower? Just go
Exactly.
play." And you're
And I
like, "Did I just do that?"
Uh-huh,
Uh-huh.
100%. I did it
You
for
did.
8 years, and again, emotionally dysregulated. I didn't even know what that word was. I also didn't know what narcissism was back then either, so I just thought I was dealing with an asshole that if I was the just queen. If I just send this picture, he'll stop. If I just send this text, he'll stop. If I just give the kids up earlier, he'll stop. Girl, there ain't nothing you can
No,
do that will stop this behavior. So
it'll
I was
never be
high
enough.
conflict because I kept trying to fix something that is unfucking fixable. It's not fixable. Now, the only thing that is fixable is how I receive and how I deliver. I can change that. And that's what changed when my son called me out is I became less high conflict when I stopped receiving things such a personal attack. He was who he was. He was going to say that regardless of what I did. And I stopped delivering things in an overabundance way and I reserved and held back, which was very hard for me being an overshare people pleaser. And I just had to change who I was and I became less high conflict. Now, don't get me wrong, you can flip a switch and I can go right back to being her if I need to be, but it doesn't benefit anybody. Like you said at the
It really
beginning,
doesn't.
my peace is so much better now that I'm emotionally regulated and having those two sets of kids, right? My olds are in their 20s and my youngs are in the single 6, 7. And so when they're 6, 7 and I'm parenting them now and I'm so emotionally regulated and I have my peace and I have my calm and my bigs come home, they're like, who
This
this?
lady. Who's
Who
this
this?
lady?
Because I'm pretty sure if I did that, I would have got my ass chewed for it. So every holiday when they're around, they're just like jaws on the floor, like, but
Right.
they're grateful too. My daughter said something to me a year ago in Thanksgiving. We were going down the road and she said, Mom, I'm so happy that the kids get to see you happy. I didn't have that. And I
But
took
they're
it
proud of you. They're
I
proud
took
of
it
you.
personally at first. I was, like, sitting there
Yeah.
looking out her window as she was driving, and, like, tears were rolling down my face, but I'm like, "She's saying this is a compliment. This is a
It's a
compliment. This is
compliment.
a compliment." And so I was like, "You're right, sister. Like, I would be mortified if you would have been in the car with me just now and said, 'Can you change?' Because they have the same childhood we have," which sucked because I was emotionally dysregulated. So that to me, I was high conflict in my own home. away from him because I was so just all over the place. I was not calm and peace at all. I was just heightened and it was showcased in my parenting. I didn't talk bad about him. That's the one thing I can hold my hat on is that I didn't talk bad about him. I didn't have to because I was talking bad about myself. And I was just in this place of just heightened all the time. His text made me nervous. Him showing up made me nervous. Going to a public place made me nervous. And the kids fed off of my nerves and they became people pleasers, which they're reformed now and they're better. But that took years of me recognizing it in myself. So that spongy domino effect helped them too to become, badass people with boundaries. But it's just this thing of like self reflection and a high conflict divorce will get you so much resolution versus court
Mhm.
because you just have to figure out what is the hill I want to die on. Yeah, he's late, but you know what? It's not worth giving up my peace to throw a fit about it. Now, if he's 2 hours late and he's kept my kids, okay, but like 15 minutes, 5 minutes, girl, you got bigger things to worry about. The fact that they come back with all their clothes and both shoes, by the way, is
Right.
impressive.
After one particular vacation that my ex-husband took our 2 children with the suitcase, which I packed,
Of course.
and in the stroller and with whatever, what came back in the door was 2 children, 1 suitcase, and no stroller. About an hour later, I texted and I said, "I think you forgot something." And he's expecting high conflict from me. He said, "Oh, I think you're gonna make a big deal out of it." And I said, "You know what? I'm not. I'm going to say instead, could have been worse. You could have lost one of the kids, right?" So you can choose your energy, but I do think it's an important point that you make. Number 1, like, our children are our teachers, but they give us so much grace and they are so easy to switch their energy. So, for example, if you go from being people pleasing to all of a sudden not turning the other cheek when he makes that sly comment in front of them at drop off, you can almost read them and see them going, you can see it because it's almost like your children are looking for permission to walk in the
Yes.
world a certain way.
Yes.
And if you can do that when they're 5 or if you can do that when they will remember it for the rest of their life, and not only are they proud of you, but you're giving them permission. It's almost more powerful because they saw you fight for it. So I feel like in your case, your daughter saying that to you is actually really especially beautiful. I get why you cried, but I think it's especially beautiful. And there are some questions that I have around that because I do wanna talk about the internal shift that
Yeah.
happened for you. You were saying that you were a people pleaser. I don't know if that is the lesson. For me, a big lesson of divorce was that I was always an over accommodator. I thought I was smooth.
Same.
I thought I
Yeah.
was successful in business
Yeah.
because everything was always smooth and I wouldn't scream if I was on fire. I would just get the deal done, right?
Correct.
But in fact, I was accommodating small slights my whole life and ignoring them in service to getting the deal, getting the money, getting the whatever, and it worked, but it also trained me not to behave the way that I should be behaving, and then you wake up and realize, "Oh, holy hell, my kids are watching everything I do. I
Yeah.
gotta stop doing that.
Mhm.
Wow, this is a lifelong theme." So
Mhm.
then I wonder for you because it seems like it was a longer fight. What was your big lesson from divorce about yourself?
Is that I have self-worth and I can't give it to anybody else to determine, and I didn't have a lot of self-worth when he married me, hence how I fell hook, line, and sinker for a narcissist, diagnosed, by the way. And
Really?
so when when somebody can take your worth and they get to puppeteer it, and even if you leave them, they're still holding on to it. You don't have any. And so when your own child looks you in the eye and tells you you're worthy of standing up for yourself, you have to go, "Holy shit." Like, time to figure it out, right? And so it's been a long journey of figuring that out. And a lot of it I did have to fake it till I made it at the beginning. I had to act tough. I would sweat bullets off when I'd throw down a boundary or not engage or not over, take care of and accommodate. It made me so nervous at the beginning because I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna blow up,
There'll be
right?"
hell to pay.
No, it'll be so it's just easier just to do it, right? And I would have to talk my no, no, we're doing this, we're doing this. But what you were saying, what I didn't realize is, yeah, I'm getting my self-worth back and I'm holding power to it, was that my kids were starting to slowly watch. And like you said, they were like, thank God she woke up, like, whoo, like we got her back, like she's gonna, help us out here. Because they were drowning and they needed me to rescue them as well. But I couldn't rescue them until I rescued myself. And I think that's what a lot of moms get wrong is that they come to me and they're like, Sam, how do I help my kids? How do I help my kids? And I'm like, what are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? Where's your self? I'll figure that out later in therapy. No, sister, you are not going to be able to help your kids through shit until you figure yourself out and you lead by example. And those kids know you're a fucking powerhouse and nobody can blow you over. I always told my kids, it's your life. Once I woke up, I told my kids, it's your life. It's your choice. Your life, your choice. And I had to show by example, this is my life, it's my choice. So
Yes.
I was leading that example. Then they got encouraged to it. I asked them a bunch of questions throughout their whole life once I woke up, and to where they were hearing themselves talk and think for themselves. And then it just came to this point where when they finally wanted to stand up for themselves, I said, I'm not going to do it for you, but I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and we're going to do this shit. And we're going to stand up for what's right. And I don't care what happens. If it blows up, it blows up. I'm still going to be shoulder to shoulder with you. I'm not going anywhere. Where before, when I didn't have self worth and I allowed him to control it, I was behind them like, you go do it. You say something to him. I'm afraid of him. I'm going to hide back here. Like, I can't do it. And my kids were out to dry by themselves. And they were, so then what they do? They conform to him because, well, that's what mom's pushing us to do. So it was just this thing of like waking up and realizing if I don't, and I had a therapist who was so great. She said, Sam, if you don't get this shit under control, you're going to send these kids off into the world to go what? Latch up with a narcissist? No.
And that's a hard no.
I
That's
was
just
like,
a complete hard
so they're
no.
like, you have to teach them self-worth, but it starts with you. And it was like, okay, what are the tools? What do we need to be doing? Like, how do I get this back? And it was one of those things like anybody that knew me from before him, I had confidence. I was great. I was awesome. Right. And I lost it with him. And I kept thinking I needed to go back to who I was before him, but I'm not the same person. I'm altered now. I'm changed now. I'm equipped better now. And so I think a lot of us, are like, oh, I want my power back. I want this back. I want Girl, you're a completely different person. She's a new vamped, adapted 2.0 version of yourself now. Like, shoot for her and what does she look like? Because your kids are begging you to become a new version so that they can have a leader and they can have somebody to mentor and somebody as a role model and somebody to lean on when they're struggling with a decision, whether it's about a significant other, a teacher, a coach, or their other parent. Because their other parent is not the only asshole or conflict person or narcissist they're going to deal with. Teach them
Exactly.
these tools,
That is so
a life
important
skill. It's
to
a
get
life
that what you're
skill.
teaching them is for their life. It's not just for their
Parent.
parenting
Right.
relationship, right?
Exactly.
Treat yourself the way your children deserve to remember their
Well,
mother treated herself.
I got one for
Because
you.
they are craving it and they know exactly what you should do and they don't have the words. They're sitting there watching you. You know, you have a son and a daughter. I have a son and a daughter. There are complex dynamics there.
Yes.
You don't want them to protect you. You don't want them to feel
To have
responsible.
pity for you.
You don't want them to feel sad for you, but you also want them to feel strong. You don't want them to be angry. You wanna give them every opportunity to have a relationship with their co-parent. You want to encourage it. You don't wanna gaslight your own kids into not trusting their own feelings. So how do you do that? And part of it is pay attention because they see everything. You know, you are the adult. You are the person who's good at lying to yourself. We live in our cognitive dissonance and our kids aren't there yet. So let's not push them there if
Right.
we can avoid
We
it.
don't have to. We don't have to. We Kids are always gonna get there at their own pace. Some will get there at 6, 16, or 26, or 36. And I describe it as this. I say the Applebee's story of like when you're in your 30s or whatever, and your child has a child, and your child of high conflict divorce or just divorce has their own child. They just brand new baby, bringing them in on the freaking, the child's safety seat, and they set that down at Applebee's, and they look across from you and they say, "What?" Are they gonna say, "Now that I'm a parent, I see how easy it is, and how dare you not help me? How dare you not give me tools? How dare you, like, I will die for this child I just had 4 days ago." They are gonna have instantaneous love for their own child, and they may question your intention during their childhood, or they may say, "Oh my God, I'm so ready to be a parent because you've taught me everything. And I feel so secure because you gave me the strength and the ability and the mental capacity and all that." How will that Applebee's conversation go when they show you your grandchild? Will they be proud of their childhood? Or are they going to have a lot of fucking questions because love comes easily until you fuck it up, right? And so when they're loving that new child and they look at you and go, "I got some questions. How did you not defend? Look at this baby. That was me." Like it's that awakening of my, son saying like, "You want us to do it? You don't do it." Like, come on, it's time. The time is now to stop playing a victim and like, okay, you got a shitty situation. I'll give you, your ex is an asshole. Awesome. Now what? Turn the page, chapter 2. Let's move on with the book. Like, what are we doing with that? Because
Yeah.
nobody, no, you don't get anywhere going, "Oh, but did you know her ex-husband is? Oh, it's so such a tragic story."
Yeah, but here's your life.
What's
You
she doing
left.
with it? Right.
Point is you left, and
Yes.
I think if you were gonna be unhappy and you don't have a peaceful home, what was the point of leaving? You left just as much for yourself as you did for your children, it wasn't just
Absolutely.
for you. And if
Right.
you left for them too and you can't give them a peaceful you, what was the point?
What was the point? Yeah.
They wouldn't have had to go back and forth to 2 houses.
Right.
Now that your kids are adults, is there anything that they have told you about their childhood experience that surprised you?
100%. 2 different perspectives. Again, boy, girl, oldest, youngest, right, in that scenario, and they're part of my business now, so they help out with parents and Q&As and things like that because we're all transparent. I fucked up a lot, they talk about it freely. The thing that my son will say is I was unapproachable because I was so emotionally dysregulated. So in his childhood, he had a lot of things he needed to tell me, but I was unapproachable because he saw that I was a disaster, so he was parentifying me, trying to protect me from his own shit because I was in my shit,
He didn't
right?
wanna add another
He didn't
burden.
wanna add. So he would always say, like, "You're unapproachable." He told me that as he got a teenager, that's what it was like as a child. "You were unapproachable to me, like, because you were so just lost that I couldn't come to you." Where my daughter has a completely different, and she said, "You showed me what it was like to get strong and to stand up for yourself." And now she's
Oh
this
my god,
hyper
it's gonna make me
she's
cry.
hyper independent person now because of she sees, how strong I was. I mean, 2 different perspectives. They're only 23 months apart, but it's just what they were exposed to and how they absorbed it was different. I mean, they both saw me a mess and they both saw me strong, but what they latch onto as pivotal moments is my son looks at some of my worst moments and my daughter looks at some of my best moments. Doesn't mean they both didn't experience the good and the bad both, but they will say, my daughter always says, "Had you not shown me that, I'd still be there. I'd still be in danger. I'd still be going." And my son says, "Had you not gotten better, I wouldn't have, had my brothers have a better life." There's just different perspectives, and I think it's easy for me to probably get triggered early on, and I probably did when they gave me feedback, but now I enjoy the feedback because it shows my growth. It shows what people are capable of. It shows that, even though they went through both good and bad exposed at the same time, they've still loved me through it. And then it also makes me kind of funny reflect that if I was that much of a train wreck and they still picked me, how fucking bad was that house?
It's a good way to look at it. It's a
No,
good way
like,
to look at it.
even though I thought I mean, I'm categorizing myself as bad as that again, I didn't talk bad about him, I didn't need to. I had a really great play therapist for my children at a young age that said she pulled me aside after the second meeting. My kids were super young, I think they were like 3 and
Yeah.
5, and she said, "Sam, whatever you do, don't talk bad about him, you won't need to." She's like, "He will bury himself very quickly." And so I held on to that. She's a professional. Again, I had professionals in my Avenger team at the beginning, right, when I figured it all out, and it was like, "Okay, I'm not going to." But what I did expose them to was being emotionally dysregulated, not trusting myself, having no self-worth. I let him lead my house. He puppeteered my house from, 6 blocks away for years. And I ran everything. I had a really good narcissist specialist come on my other show, and she said, "You were using him as a filter through your life, even after you left him." So everything was being ran through a dad filter.
It
I
hurts.
was running it through a dad filter. My kids were running it through dad filter. I didn't have a Sam mom filter for the first 8 to 10 years. But once I changed the filter out, that's when my kids were like, "Ah, like, here she is, but I was doing it. I would say things like, "Oh, we can't do that. Dad'll get mad at us. Oh, like, we have to hurry up. Like, we don't want to make dad mad." Like, I was running everything through a dad filter. We don't know. My son would want to paint his fingernails. "Oh, okay, you can paint him, but we got to take him off before you get to dad's house because, don't want to fight that battle." I was running everything through a dad filter, which made them over accommodate to him because I was telling him what filter to use instead of their own filter. And I wasn't trying to get them to go through mom filter. I wanted my kids, and through progress of time, they have their own filters. There ain't anybody talking shit to either one of my kids now. They have their own filters, they have their own tolerance level, they have their own boundaries. Like, even though they might have had a shit childhood through high conflict co-parenting for the first 10 years of their life, it's made them who they are, and they're such empaths now. I mean, that's another
They probably
question
have
I
a lot
get
of
a lot
clarity.
is, God, how fucked up are your kids? Through the great therapist, through me helping, through all the podcasts and books and trainings, and I tell them everything. I'm transparent. I'll own my mistakes. I still fuck up sometimes and overgo. And funny story, not funny, but funny. A couple holidays ago, I was in a bad place with my own emotions, and work was stressing me out, and I lost it on my daughter. I thought she disrespected me, and I lost it. And she was home from college, and I went in my room and cried for hours. And Jared was like, "Okay, you were a little over the top, but like, what's this about?" And I said, "I just reminded her of her childhood. Go ask her. I can tell you right now, she's having a flashback, and she's probably upset." And her and I got together the next day when I was getting emotional. When we talked, and she goes, "Mom, that was my childhood."
No.
And she's like, "I've never seen you relapse like that." But she goes, "But you're here right now apologizing. We're good." But she's like, "I don't want you to ever do that to the boys." And again, I was mad about something. I wasn't even mad at her, but I
It
thought,
was probably a avalanche effect of things going on.
yes, I was emotionally dysregulated that day. And normally with my husband, I'll be like, "Hey, today's not a day," so he'll buffer me and stuff like that. I'm really open about I'm not 100%. I still get caught up, right?
Yeah.
But it was just that
Nobody
talk.
is the thing, right? Nobody is.
Right. But owning it, like, I sat with her and we talked outside and I owned it and I said, "This wasn't about you, Joe. It was this, and this, and you were an easy punching bag, and that's the old way to handle problems, right?" And she goes, "Mom, it's like she was so like, "I can't believe how much you notice it about yourself now, like, it's so great, blah, blah, blah." But she's like, "Yeah, that was, like, how you were all the time," you know? And it was just so for those of you that I know are listening that you over yell at your kids and you think, "Well, they shouldn't have done that." Yeah, but where are you at first? Yeah, it might have been something they shouldn't have done. Maybe she was disrespectful that day, but I could have said in a regulated state, I'd say, "Whoa, sister, did I just catch a little bit of like over the top, we're equals, you talking down to me a little bit? Like, do you want to readdress that?" That would be how I'd handle that now versus I was like, "What did you say?" And I just
Right.
lost
You
it,
lost
right?
it.
And so for if you're one of those people that's losing it, it's probably not a child issue. It's you just not having balance of like, where do you need to shove that negative energy and how do you cope with it? You just using your kids as punching bags, you know, and you just you overly punish and you overly yell. I was that parent for 8 to 10 years.
Well, and look, we are all pressure cookers in parenting. And then you add to that middle age. Then you add
Right,
to
right,
that
right.
divorce. And then you add to that high conflict. And then you add to that when you are co parenting with someone who is high conflict, narcissist or not, you are under constant attack.
Yes.
And regulating your nervous system is pretty much a lifelong goal for
Yeah,
every human who's ever been born from the
right,
moment we were born.
right.
And now you want to put it under constant lifelong attack. And you want to tell it, but bake cookies and stay calm. And when that kid pees on your leg, don't say anything because how dare you? So let's
Right.
just be clear about what it means to be a pressure cooker in this situation, right? We have to give ourselves grace. That doesn't mean our guilt goes away. But as you're speaking, what I'm thinking of is this is why I love doing this podcast. Certain things crystallize for me. And what crystallizes for me is this: the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about high conflict co parenting is knowing that our kids always want to believe in us.
Yes.
Because here's the thing: if you're a healthy parent, guess what? They're going to give you so many chances. If you're a loving, positive, non abusive parent, you can mess up 6 million times. And here's your daughter 100 years later saying, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you," because
Mhm.
she always believed in you.
Yep.
She always did. And so did your
Yep.
son, because he was like, he said that to you because he knew you could stand up for yourself. The other side of that coin, they want to believe in the parent that's hurting them.
Yes.
And it's our job
Yeah.
to watch, to not pile on,
Mhm.
to not accidentally overvalidate the feelings and give them terminology that they're
They
too
can't.
small
Yep.
to get,
Absolutely.
to not ever direct their decisions. I know your daughter went no contact with her dad,
Mhm.
and to walk this fine line of guiding them to figure out how to navigate people in the world when you know the one that's doing them the most harm is the other person they are biologically wired to most want to believe in.
Yeah.
This is hell,
Yeah, it's
right?
not easy, and, and one of the things when my daughter did decide to go no contact, my son had already been no contact for 6 years prior to that, is my daughter gave a training one time and she said, "It's amazing that you want this person to love you, but when you finally see that they're incapable and you have to leave, you're still left with a huge void even though you leave and you're home and you're safe and you're away from toxicity and you're away from abuse or whatever it is, there's still a void in you that like I have a parent that can't put me first." And she's like, you got to be able to fill that with good things. And so many people pick bad things to fill voids with, right? So she's like, you just got to be conscious of like she went into faith. And so she dove into faith to fill that void. And thank goodness,
Wonderful. That's
where
wonderful.
some kids pick relationships and, alcohol and drugs or harming and stuff like that
Yeah,
to fill those voids. So yeah, I mean, again, I don't think what we went through was easy. I don't think what we went through was for the faint at heart, or I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. I really don't. And I even have empathy for my ex-husband that he just doesn't have the tools to understand what he missed out on, because he didn't want to seek help or change or just adapt or try. And so he wasn't a good fit for us. And it doesn't make him a bad person per se. He's just not a good fit for our family. And so we had to just remove him.
well, and I know that you feel empathy for everyone, and I know
Right.
you feel empathy for him because you cannot find peace in co-parenting with someone who is disordered unless you do get empathy for them. You,
Yeah.
like, can't, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that in just life in general, if you deal with anybody who's disordered, you're not gonna find peace until something like understanding that they couldn't control themselves
Hmm.
if they're disordered. There was
Yeah.
a man I interviewed on the podcast, like I mentioned, who was the director of the Stanford Center on Forgiveness. And he said, unforgiveness is holding on to making reality wrong. You're basically saying it was not supposed to be the way that it was. So if I hold on, if I'm clenched enough, it could have been different. But guess what? It couldn't have. Right. So there's a piece of there that's not even letting yourself forgive someone. There's a piece inside of it that's letting go of the hope that anything could have been different. And
Yeah.
that can give you some peace.
And I don't forgive him for anything that he's done because he did it. But what I do understand is understand why he did it. He wasn't given the tools that I was given as a child. He wasn't given any kind of resource that it was opposites, you know? So, I mean, I am at the point of my healing journey where I have deep empathy for him that he will not get to see how amazing the two human beings that created, even that he has a stepson or he has a son that I'm still a part of, you know, like he created some dynamic, amazing people. And I have empathy that he will never know that, you know, and that, but he just wasn't given the tools. There was no way he was ever going to be more than what he was because he didn't have the ability to. And so I think I looked at it for the first few years of saying, why can't he? Why can't he? Like, I didn't have these things. I went and found them and I went and got these tools. And, you know, I read these books and I went to these classes and I asked these specialists, like, why can't he do that? He wasn't capable. He wasn't capable of even realizing he had faults. He was delusional. He believed his way was the only way. And that's okay for him, but it wasn't a good fit for us. So we left.
I'm gonna throw in a little bit more empathy for him, and I'm gonna say, if the 3 children he had turned out to be fantastic, which I believe you, right? I'm taking
Hmm.
your word
Yeah.
for it,
Yeah.
then the one thing he did right for all of them is he chose moms,
He picked good
raised
women.
them that way.
Hmm.
So, I mean, there's,
Yeah.
like, thanks
Yeah.
for that. Can we do a thanks, right? We
Absolutely,
can do that.
absolutely. I mean, there was many years where I was really pissed. I'm like, "I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe this is
Yeah,
my life."
of
And then
course.
that's when I started to be like, "But look at how many people I'm helping because that was my life. Look at how many women I'm able to not make them feel alone." When I share my story, they're like, "Oh my god, how many people come to me and say, 'I'm living your life.'" And I'm like, "I believe you
I
100%."
believe you,
You
and I'm
know,
here to
and
help, and let's get
right.
practical.
And let's start on your future. Like, what's your future look like without him?
Well, and I do wanna talk about the future that you've had since then, but first, I wanna just before we close that chapter, what could you have done differently when you were in the trenches and it was those first what could you have done differently during that most high conflict moment to take better care of yourself?
Be more present.
Mm,
I I was always anticipating the next. Like, okay, we got an exchange coming up. Like, I was so anxious about the future, problems, conflict, timing. I was never in the present. I wish I would have put electronics away. I wish I would have asked for help about exterior things to where I could have been more present because as soon as my kids hit high school, you know, they did high school things and they were
right, they're
gone.
not
We're
interested in
not
us,
gone.
right?
Mom who? Like, I'm here to shower and shit and shave and leave, you know? Like, so, like, I wish more parents understood that, and I know it sounds so cliche that, you know, kids grow up fast. You only get this small freaking window, right? And then I wasn't present during that window. I was distracted with my own trauma and my own, you know, figuring my life out, my divorce that drug on forever and co-parenting that made it even worse. I wasn't present. I wish I would have leaned on the people that did wanna help me that I pushed away and said, "I'm fine." I might have been the just queen, but I was also Miss I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I was not fine. I was not fine. So I pushed people away that wanted to help, my parents especially, until I hit a rock bottom. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm drowning. I need a life vest. So I mean, I wish I would have been more present and more forthcoming about my struggle. I was trying to be tough. You know, I got it. I'm good. I got it. I did not have it. I did not have a hold of it. It was ugly. It was bad. It was wrong decision after wrong decision because I was too prideful and too much shame
To
and
get
guilt with
help.
leading it to get help and to
Well,
ask for
and
help.
can I throw in there something that it's a powerful experience I had? Your children feel better when they see your village swoop in for you.
Hell
They're
yeah.
not upset that you had a bad day. I had a conversation with my son about this when we were I wanna figure out how old he was. I wanna say we split up when he was 5, he's now 10, maybe he was 7 or 8. I had to go in for major abdominal surgery,
Mhm.
and it was a 7-hour surgery, and I came out, and I had to have my mom come and help, and I had the kids and all that kinda thing. And at one point, he saw me unwrapping my gauze of my abdomen, and he sees, like, tubes sticking out and all that kinda thing, and that didn't even weird him out because boys like gross things. But I I winced or something, you know? And then I came out of the shower and I lost my patience about something.
Mhm.
And then I was trying to lift my daughter into her crib. which I wasn't supposed to lift anything, and he had overheard my mom saying, "Don't lift anything. Who's gonna lift her? How's she gonna get into the crib?" So, post-surgery, I'm lifting her into the crib, and he said, "Mom, no, I can do it." And I got very uncomfortable, and I realized it was because he was thinking he had to take care of me. So I had this long talk with him that night, and it's something we refer back to now, where I said, "Look, mommy is exhausted, but mommy is okay. There's a difference between being frustrated and annoyed and being completely overwhelmed. Your mom is overwhelmed once a year. Most people are overwhelmed 365 days a year, so you're
Yeah.
lucky." You are allowed to try to help everyone in your family if they're overwhelmed. You have to
Yeah.
ask, because
Yeah.
I will tell you. And
Yeah.
by the way, you need to know this, there are 800 people before you that I will call to help me if I am overwhelmed. I was like, "Who brought over food yesterday? Oh, who's doing my laundry? Oh, who did this? Oh, who did the" and he keeps going and going through all these names of my cousins. I have a large extended family nearby. So he
Right.
keeps going and going, and I was like, "I need to hear you list out all the people you know are here to help me.
Mhm.
You're like number 97 on that list,
Right. Which
and
is
your
one of
job is to, like, be 7."
which I will say was one of the things I did wrong, with Walker being my oldest. He helped take care of me
How?
when I was little. Like, littlest things, if he saw me in distress as I'm, "I'll get over there, blah, 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 blah," he would come over and say, "Mom, can I brush your hair?"
Oh,
Like, he was trying to take care of
he
me,
was trying to soothe you.
and I allowed it too much to where I needed I couldn't fill my own love tank at that time, I can now, but I allowed them to fill my love tank. I
But the question
allowed
is, where's the line? Because you wanna let your son love you,
Well, the
and
line is
I've
simple.
been terrified to let
The
him
line is
feel like a
simple.
caretaker.
Is
I've
he
been terrified.
filling his own love tank first? Am I filling him up and the overflow comes to me? Great. But if I'm asking him to fill mine and only mine and I'm not filling his or his isn't felt, then I'm wrong. I'm wrong as a parent. And I'm sorry people can disagree with me with that. It is my job as the person that I created. I fill their love tank until I teach them how to fill themselves. And until they can fill themselves, it's my job. How dare me try to rob shit out of his tank to fill my own? That's exactly what my ex-husband was doing. "Do you miss me? Do you love me? Who do you wanna live with more?" And I did the same to a certain degree, not to the extent, but to the certain degree I was. When I could see that he was wanting to care for me, I'm like, "Oh, my tank is empty," and I would let him fill it up, but here he was walking around just begging for me to fill his tank back up on my good days, and I'm like, "Oh, he's good, I'm good, we're good." I did a piss poor
I
job of that at the
see.
beginning,
I
I
see the disconnect of what happened there.
Yeah. Your job as a parent is to fulfill your kids until they know how to self-fulfill. That self-worth thing, taking pride in things and doing things because it makes them feel good, not because they get an accolade for it, "That a boy, that a boy." It's so
Yeah.
that they do it like, "Damn, I did that good. I'm
Yeah.
good." Now, again, my kids are poster children for that now, where I still find to this day me calling and asking for approval from my parents. It's something that's deep rooted in me. Like, I'm still working on it to this day, right? And so I think as a parent, when I did that to him, that's why I was unapproachable, because he was having to take care of me to a certain degree and fill my tank up for me, and that's
God,
a big job.
you have really the way you describe your experience of those 8 to 10 years before your aha moment, it almost sounds like you have had, like, the equivalent of an out of body experience of going back and examining what you did right and wrong.
Mhm.
Like, you've really,
Yeah,
um,
because it's what
torn
people are
apart
doing
what you
wrong
did.
right now. It's
Yeah.
what a mom listening right now is going, "Holy shit, I do that."
No, but
Stop.
I'm amazed that you're able to go into that level of detail about what you did and the moments, because those are really gonna hit home for a lot of people. Everyone's looking for the line, of how do I do this right?
And I look at the example that just happened last night with my 6-year-old. I got in bed with him and I laid down and I got on my phone, and typically, I hug and kiss all over both of them, and then I lay down, and I didn't do that. So what did my 6-year-old come over? He came over and laid on me and started kissing on me, and I instantly was like, I didn't fill his tank first. So he's trying to fill mine, and it was like, "Oh, shit." So I had to go give him all his love and snuggles, and everything. And then he was at peace to go to sleep. Like, it's the simplest little things at such young fundamental ages that we have to make sure we're filling their tank up with whatever it is. If if you want to do the basic love languages, you could do that, but you know how your kid needs to feel love and attention. And unless you give it to them, they're never going to know how to love themselves. And then you slowly start saying, "Well, look at you. Aren't you proud of yourself?" Like, "Oh, yeah, I am proud of myself." And I didn't do that with my first set of kids because I was so like a
Well, you were
sponge that was
surviving,
dry.
but
It
you were
needed everything.
surviving, by the way.
Yeah,
It's not like you were
absolutely.
trying to do it wrong,
Well
you had just been hit by a truck, and it seems like
well,
the truck was running back and forth over you.
and that's where I think that's why I can talk about it, is I'm conscious aware that, yes, I take fault, but I was also in survival mode. So I've forgiven myself 10 times fold of I did what I did to survive that. Literally literally survived that. And so to me, I don't people can judge me, people can say I would never do cool, good for you. You didn't go through the same trauma I did
Yeah,
and
you don't know.
right. So like I don't mind it and I know that by the feedback I get from these that people are like I've never been so validated. I've never been so seen. I've never felt so like that's exactly how I'm feeling and that's what I've been doing. And it's all correctable. Like you may be punishing yourself listening to this going, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing the same things." Like change it today.
Yeah.
Change it today. Like it's
Your
that
kids are
simple.
so rooting for you. They so
Yes.
believe in you.
Mhm.
You change it today, and they
Yeah.
will spend their life remembering that you changed it, not that you got it
Absolutely,
wrong in
because
the
they're
first
they're
place.
they're begging you to just snap out of it,
Yeah.
and
You're
when you
Rocky to
do
them. That's
yeah,
all.
exactly, exactly, and they're so forgiving of the one they deep down know is genuine, like, I might have had my shit, but I was genuine, and they knew I loved them, and they knew I provided, and they were safe to explore and be who they wanted to be and be different and be quirky, and they knew that at my house, they could be that, so even though I had my rough patches, they knew that they were still who they got to be at my house, where at the other house, they weren't allowed to be who they wanted to be, and they had to mold to fit him, right? So they knew they weren't comfortable there. So, yeah, they're rooting for you, and again, I'm just transparent because I know it gives me healing strength too to tell old stories and to be on the other side of it, and it helps my kids to know that I'm speaking the truth, that their life wasn't easy. It wasn't great for a few years, but it's great now.
Our kids feel our intentions,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And more than anything, we need to remind ourselves that, like, they don't just see the results, they literally see our heart beating for them.
Yeah.
And similarly, they feel what we're going through, good, bad, or ugly. At
Mm.
what point did you remarry?
We're getting married in March.
Really?
We've been together 10 years and we decided I mean, I'm older than him. I'm 5 years older than Jared, and I met him right after I went kind of through an awakening. I dated another narcissist for a very short period of time, and I was like, I could see it so clearly. I was like, "Whoa, escape this one." Left that relationship, bumped into Jared. Jared and I've known each other our whole lives, but again, he was 5 years younger, so we weren't like in school together or anything. We just knew we come from a small town. And I met him and he didn't want kids at first and he saw me parenting and he was like, "Gosh, you're so good at this." I'm like, "Well, you should have been here a few years ago." And he was like, "You just have your shit together." And at that point, I was emotionally stable, financially stable, psychologically stable. Like I was top shelf material here. I was a top
You
shelf
were
looker.
really ready.
I
Yeah.
was ready and I didn't need him for anything. And I think that's why we matched so well is I met him in a part of his life where he was finally ready to settle down and not be a bachelor. And he met me when I was ready to like just kind of have fun we matched up. And then once he saw me parent and he was around my two stellar children, he decided like, "Hey, would you want to have kids?" So we said, yes, let's do non-traditional. Let's have kids first. Let's marry later. And so, yeah, we're not getting married till March of this next year. We got a 6, 7, 6, 7-year old, and then we have our 19 and 21-year-old. And so life really changed once I spent time with myself, did a lot of self-reflection, got my health under control, really took hold of just who am I? What am I about? How am I running the show? And when I met him, I was teaching and he said, "Why don't you start making this a business and, helping people with their divorce?" And I thought he was crazy. And then my mom said the same thing. And I'm like, "Okay, well, you two must know something I don't." So I started it and started in my basement and it just kind of evolved and it just blew up. It blew up because I'm a truth teller. That's why I call it the ugly truth of divorce. And I'm a natural teacher and I'm a good storyteller. And so being able to combine those two things I love to do with educating people about how not to make a mistake and how to be, future focused and child focused and like healing focused, like it's the best job I've ever had. I absolutely love it. I love
Look,
it.
I think the fact that you can be so raw about everything that you went through
Imagine if
and
everybody
that
was.
you
You ever imagine
can
that? If just more people were like me and just said it when they needed to say it or reflected or just could take accountability. I mean, imagine what the world would be like. It'd be
that's the
amazing, but
emotional release,
yeah,
right? Is when you hear someone else's story in a real way. Because
right.
whatever I've gone through, someone else has gone through.
Right.
I'm at peace with what I did, not that I did everything right, just like you.
Yep.
And so, what do you think is gained by hiding what you went through or keeping it to yourself? You keep it a secret, it's almost like you're saying you have something to hide. If you're willing to talk about everything that's ever
Yeah. And people can't hurt you when you own everything.
right. People
Nobody
can
has
hurt you with
power but
information
you.
you're not denying.
This is my story of what I did and what I went through with the characters that I went through. I have receipts for everything that I'm talking about. My case is public knowledge. Like This is
And your
the
kids are older, so they
and
can be
my
at peace
right, and
with
I started though when they were younger. I did start when they were younger, but, it's my story, and I think I have another client who wants to get into coaching as well, and she's like, "How'd you know when it was time?" I said, "There's just this moment where you just go, 'I'm going balls deep in it, and I'm gonna say what I wanna say, and whatever happens is supposed to happen.'" I'm a believer in that. If he wanted to come for me and come for me. If he chooses to, I can't stop. I have no control on how someone listens to this and gets affected. All I can do is tell it, and if somebody gets hurt by it or he does, that's their feelings, not mine. I'm just going to keep speaking my truth and relate to people and give people hope. I think when I was drowning with pity and victimhood and horrible parenting and all that, I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. There was no light. It was the darkest fucking room I've ever been in my life. And once I put down everything and cleaned house and changed the circumstances, that light got really bright. And I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that when people said, "Oh, Sam, it'll get better." But how? Like, tell me the how part. Like, yeah, I probably can believe if I'm a conscious brain, it will get better. But how do I get there? And it's the basic stuff, you guys. It's literally cleaning your house. I mean it. Clean your house. Get the clutter out of your house. Stop drinking. Get better sleep. Look at the friends you're surrounding. How are you spending your free time? How do you talk to yourself? Are you journaling? Are you in therapy? Are you open to your kids? Are you putting your fucking phone down? Like it's the simplest changes and you get your power back. That's it. And you become a better human. What you're doing, you're not happy with. So why do you keep doing it? It's
and
pretty
then
simple.
I will say this, there is a big difference between getting out of it and getting to the level where you are not just releasing your resistance to the reality that you're living in, you're changing the entire character as whom you show up.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it's only one
that's
part of you.
unbeatable
Yeah, it's only one part of you. I see all these people, clients, they're just like, "Sam, it's affecting this, because you're allowing it to."
that you're
That
allowing it.
he's over there in that corner. I got 3 other corners of my room that I control. He's a part of one corner, but he's not even controlling that corner. I keep him in that corner. He's in a cage. It's over there. I'll release it when I'm ready, and I put it back when I'm done. Like, but all of you are just letting him run amok through the whole house and ruin No, that's not how we do this. Like, but it's easy that way because then you get to play victim and say, "Look at me. I'm dealing with a monster. I'm dealing with something horrible." It's like, you gonna say that forever? Because I mean, I
It's
tried
also a
for a long time.
self-reinforcing thought. Because then you're
Right.
gonna be in a bad mood, then you're gonna it just keeps going, then the kids feel that, and the time you don't have them, you're not
But then
regenerate
when your kids start allowing him to run all corners of their house, you're like, "Whoa, wait a second. Your dad doesn't have control of that." And you're like, "He lets you control all of your life." So, I mean, it's this domino effect that if you think that those kids aren't watching, they are, So, I mean, it's time to get control and really just it's all perspective change, Yeah, he's a problem. Yeah, it's an obstacle, but it's not every obstacle. Not everything has to be through the dad filter.
well, and look, your kids were watching, absorbing, and rooting for you the entire
Mhm.
time, and thank goodness they were right,
Yeah,
because not just for you and for them and for the new littles that you have and the beautiful wedding that's upcoming, but for all the people that you help. Thank you
right.
for the work that you do.